Hey everybody, Scotty B here. I've got a review today, LEGO's new Marvel Daily Bugle set. This thing is huge. Biggest set they've ever made for Marvel. Lots to talk about, lots of cool stuff. Be right back to tell you all about it. This thing is really cool. Biggest set that Marvel has ever made, like I said. 3,772 pieces. And it retails for $2.99, which actually is pretty decent. Typically with LEGO, it works out to about 10 cents a piece. And I think you really get a lot with this set. It's very cool. And 25 minifigures is just a ridiculous amount. And we'll go through all those guys here in a little bit. One cool thing about this that I wasn't expecting is that it's actually compatible with the LEGO modular buildings. They actually have the peg holes on both sides. So if you're like me and you have those modular buildings, you can actually put this in with the scenery. The look doesn't quite fit with, you know, the bookstore, for example, but I think it would be really cool. And even if you're not a superhero guy, I think this could be a really cool addition to your set if you have a modular city, for example. As you can see, it's very tall. You got Firestar up here, and we'll talk about her a little bit later on. But yeah, I overall really liked the set. It took about 10 hours for me to put it together. Overall, LEGO did a pretty good job of keeping this from getting tedious, because a lot of these windows that you see are very repetitive, and that does happen. You get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm really tired of putting all these together, but then it shifts and then you get to build the interiors or whatever, and so it breaks it up kind of nicely on that. You also get a couple of vehicles here, the New York taxi cab, which I really love, and Spider-Man's dune buggy, which I don't know if that's a thing in the comics, but for some reason throughout my life, I've been seeing Spider-Man dune buggies appear in different toy forms or whatnot. So you get one of those too. Let's maybe take a look at the building first. Like I said, I think it's almost 3 feet tall when it comes in. Just like the modulars, each piece lifts off floor by floor. And then also the fronts come out to reveal the inside. So we'll kind of go through and take a look at each one of those individually. So starting from the top down on this set, I really like the way they did the top. I like the way they did the sign. That was really cool. It's got the water tower on top, the broadcast antenna, the transmitter, and again, Firestar, who I will get to towards the end when we talk about the minifigs. I really like the way this building looks overall. This feels like a building that you would see in New York City. So we'll go in, we'll take a look at the top floor first. I'm gonna take out this front panel here. All right, so starting with the top floor, we've got Jonah Jameson's office over here and another little sitting office over here. There is an elevator that you'll see on every single floor that they did, which is kind of cool. Obviously, it doesn't work because there's literally building right behind it in this set. You've got the little viewing TV screen up there. But yeah, this top floor is really good looking. And we'll move down to the next floor. All right, so now we get to the next level down. This one, you've got Green Goblin gobbling up some scenery over here, crashing through the front of the building. They did a great job with making this kind of a frozen in time action scene. They're held on by the ball and socket type pieces, and so you can move these around a little bit if you really want to get crazy, like you just burst through. But it is a really cool piece. I do wish that LEGO had included the pieces to build this out of the set and just have a normal front if you wanted it, because again, this is compatible with the modular sets, so it would make a really cool skyscraper. And maybe you don't want Green Goblin busting up the scene in your little city, but not a big deal. And again, they did a nice job with the way it looks. And like the other floor, this piece will remove. This is the one that Green Goblin supposedly crashed out of, but clearly did not go through the building, because if you see behind the glass, everything is pretty undisturbed over here. This I thought was a neat little room. It seems to be like a storage room. You got a pizza and a camera sitting on top of a filing cabinet, and there's a little photocopy over here, which I thought was kind of neat because it actually has a glass surface, so it looks like if you had really tiny papers, it might actually work. Then you've got, I think this might be Peter Parker's office because he's got a pic of Spider-Man hanging out, but it's just a basic office space. Again, with the elevators that you see on the side. I really wish they had given us the pieces for the front to be built normally instead of the crash scene. I don't have anything against the crash scene. It's just kind of nice when you have that option, especially if you wanted to put this in with modulars. It would work really well that way. Okay, and now we're down to the next, or I guess the second floor of the building here. We'll take the face up. Before I take this off, this is kind of cool. Again, a very Times Square kind of thing where you've got the big monitors out in the front of the building. And I thought this was a neat touch where it literally wraps around the side. They're saying vote for Norman Osborn. Yeah, I did really like the way they did these monitors on the side. Gives it a more modern touch. We'll take the front off of there. And now once again, we got the newsroom in this floor, which is pretty cool. Seating all the way around the tables for your minifigs. A lot of monitors going on right in the middle. You got a little break room over here with some coffee and some donuts hanging out. Water cooler in the back. Again, another elevator. Really nice, and I like that LEGO did different color floors in all of these. This is a really cool looking set, and it does kind of look exactly like a small newsroom there. So again, you got 25 minifigures you're gonna have to find spaces for. You got seating and some standing room down here for quite a few of them. Okay, and so now we are at the main level of the building, the lobby. And this one is a little harder to show because this face does not remove. This face is stationary, but inside, just some seating and some security desks and a little metal detector to get through there. One cool play feature though with this is, in addition to the Green Goblin blasting through the front of the building, you can get one of your characters to blast out the side of the building here like that. And you can see inside, you got a little soda machine over here. LEGO always does these really cool little details like that. The soda machine actually has tiny cans of soda in it. You know, it's that kind of thing that I love. LEGO does those details with it. But it is kind of an interesting piece. It looks like the Rhino should have come through this hole, actually, the way that it's blown out. But, you know, the bricks are built in such a way that they do fit in, and it looks just like a regular piece of the building when it's in place. Behind the building here, we got a couple of dumpsters and some boxes that are discarded, and of course, the rat, because, you know, what alley in New York doesn't have at least one rat, and the New York City manhole cover. And then you also have a little newsstand on the side over here. So apparently they're just pushing papers right out their front door. And this comes off, and you can put your minifig in there to sell your newspapers to people on the street. So that is the base. So this is the building all broken down. Again, 4 levels. Very cool how LEGO did this. Again, very much like all of their other modular sets where each floor is kind of its self-contained little world, really. As much as this is the Daily Bugle, each floor is very unique. There's a lot of little details that go into each one. Again, with, you know, the donut, the coffee pot, the water cooler, just little things like that that LEGO pays a lot of attention to. And then everything stacks back up very neatly. I think this could be a really cool play set for slightly older children and whatnot, because again, you have a lot going on. You've got multiple floors. You've got a ton of superheroes to play with. And this fits in great with a lot of the Marvel vehicles and other sets and things like that that you're gonna get. If you're, like I am, an adult collector, if you're a Marvel fan, this is great because you're gonna get a lot of characters that are Marvel. And if you're a modular person, like I am also, this is really a cool piece because it kind of covers a couple different interests in LEGO's series. So I really like what they did with the building there. I think they did a great job with it. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to talk just a little bit about is this taxi cab that comes with it. It is very much like the Speed Champions cars. It's a very involved build. Really, I think captures the spirit of the New York City checker cabs from back in the day. You can see that it's got very much that shape to it. You've got a couple of round taillights out in the back. The top comes off, and you can put one figure in, and it looks like one figure will fit in the back seat area too. So you can actually give legitimate cab rides with this to minifigs, not actual people. The Spider-Man Dune buggy, again, also a little tiny car. That was a pretty quick build. It's there, and the one nice thing that it does have is they gave you a little pivoty thing that you can actually stick it to the side of the building. I don't know why Spider-Man would drive up the side of a building, but they show that as one of the options. Kind of a cool little touch there. And that covers pretty much the building and the vehicles. And now we get to the minifigs. And I think that the minifigs deserve a lot of attention because there's a lot of really cool ones in here. Okay, so as promised, here are the minifigs, and I'm gonna kind of break them down by groups. Start with the villains first, we'll start over here with Doc Ock. This one is interesting to me because I've never seen him with his tentacles done this way. LEGO has done them in many different ways, but this uses that new piece that has the curved deal that they're using for minifigs to look like they're running. And it's that with a single round stud. You put the two together and then you do it 7 times for each arm. It gives it a really cool look, a really mechanical look, but it's still kind of classic Doc Ock. So I think that's really a neat job they did. You got Carnage over here. He's got to be part of the Spider-Verse villains, I would think, in this set. They did a good job with it. Again, you've got his tentacles, would you call it, coming out, and the symbiote just kind of exploding off of his back, as it often does. But it's a good figure. These are all printed really well as well. I've got a couple other Carnage figures, and I haven't done a comparison. I think this one is really good with the set. Then to go to the other side of the symbiotes, you've got Venom over here, who is also very cool. This one is a good looking figure. It's pretty similar to the Venoms they've done in the past, but not a bad looking figure. Mysterio, with the comic book style, not so much the movie, with his fishbowl head, which is wonderful. Green Goblin, of course, on his little glider. And as you saw in the building, he's got his little clear peg that he hangs out on because he is blasting through the front of the building on this glider. It's a pretty cool figure. I really like that. I love the bright green and purple that they're using with it. They didn't mute those colors at all, and I think that is very comic booky, and I think it works great for this set. Then you got over here Venom, and Venom's got some of his symbiote tentacles happening in his backside. Very similar to other Venom figures that you've seen in other sets, but I think this might be somewhat unique to this set. I believe that all the figures are new for this set. I don't think they're rehashing any old ones. This one is pretty interesting. This Sandman doesn't come with legs. He does have his own little base. That is essentially the legs that he has. And then it gives you this little thing to build out, which with all the gray pieces, I believe is to make it look like he came up from the street and kind of cracked up the pavement as he came up. But he sits up on top of there really well. And then there's a couple of pieces to pivot him so he can kind of be posed differently, however you want to do that. But again, a good looking figure, bright green colors. Again, I really like the bright colors they used on this. So those are the villains that come with this set. 6 of them total. And now I'll show you the heroes. And so here we are with our hero figs. As you would expect with any Spider-Man set, there is Spider-Man. And this is a pretty cool little fig. I don't know if this is the first time LEGO has done it, but his arms are actually printed red and blue. I think that's a really cool touch on here. But otherwise, it's pretty standard Spider-Man looking figure that you would normally see in a Spider-Man set. And you have Ghost Spider, aka Spider-Gwen, another really cool looking figure. I really love the Miles Morales they give you with the red hoodie. I think that's a really cool look on this figure and the gray pants. Spider-Ham. Next up is Black Cat. She's holding a diamond in her little whip. Very cool little figure. I believe she has existed in other Spider-Man sets before. I'm almost 100% positive, but I don't remember if I have seen her in any or not. And now we're gonna get to 4 of my favorites of the entire set. Blade, which I think is absolutely fantastic. He's got his dual swords on his back, but very awesome. Sunglasses. I wasn't expecting a Blade minifig. I believe this might be the first time that there's ever been a Blade LEGO minifig in any set. Daredevil, which is another first. Daredevil is one of my favorite characters in Marvel Comics. So I was really excited when I saw that. I thought that was fantastic to see Daredevil show up. Next up, another cool figure that I really love is this Punisher, because it's the comic book Punisher, the white boots, the white gloves, white skull on his chest. I was honestly surprised to find this in a Lego set or that Lego made it at all, because it was my understanding that Lego didn't allow or had kind of a rule against any sort of modern warfare or whatever, and he's clearly holding a couple of machine guns in his hands. He's a pretty violent character, so it just seems like an interesting choice for Lego. And last but not least, and this one I've kind of mentioned a couple of times because this is really cool and it really annoys the heck out of me at the same time. This is Firestar from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and I think that is so cool because of all the shows, movies, my biggest exposure to Spider-Man probably ever was watching that show as a kid, but it was always Spider-Man, Firestar, and Iceman. Why didn't they put Iceman in the set? Because he was part of that trio. And how cool would it have been to see a translucent blue minifig or a clear minifig with just a little face printed on it? It just drives me nuts because Firestar is such a cool figure to have in this set. It's a great detail, and in the build, she has a very specific position to be flying over the top of the Daily Bugle. So I think they really knew who this character was, and they really made an effort to get her in the set and in the forefront, which I think is great. But why not Iceman? That just drives me absolutely crazy. But that's one of my biggest complaints about the set, which all things considered is pretty small. So let's move on to the last of the minifigs. All right, so here are the rest of the minifigs that come with this set. Peter Parker, as you would expect, because it's a Spider-Man set. Aunt May, which is a new print, I believe, or a new version of her. Gwen Stacy, of course. Jonah Jameson, naturally. Ben Urich, which is kind of cool because then that ties in with the Daredevil minifig that comes with the set. And now we get into some characters that admittedly I'm not as familiar with. So we have Ron Barney here in a Argyle sweater, which is a very cool looking sweater, and it is a print on front and back with that. Next up you have Betty Brant, also an employee of the Daily Bugle. Okay, next we have Robbie Robertson, and then we have Amber Grant, and last but not least we have Bernie the cab driver. So the taxi isn't going to go undriven in our little universe. Okay, so that's it for the minifigs of the set. There's 25 of them. Like I said, my biggest complaint is we just don't have an Iceman. When they did the 66 Batman set a few years back, there were 19 minifigs in that set, and as a giveaway, they did have Mr. Freeze. If you bought, I think it was $40 or more, you got a free Mr. Freeze minifig and a poly bag that was specifically for that 66 set. Maybe we'll get an Iceman that way. No idea if that's the case or not, but it would be very nice. Otherwise, I don't think Lego has ever made an Iceman. But beyond that, as far as the minifigures go, I think it's a great lineup. You got a lot of minifigs. I think that is the most minifigs that has ever come in a Marvel set as well. The Daredevil, the Punisher, the Blade, Spider-Ham, all of those figs are very cool to have. And it really rounds out the set and kind of gives you the Daily Bugle through the years of its history, I guess is why they did that. That's it for the figs. And let's go take one last look at the building. Okay, so there you have it. This is the LEGO Daily Bugle set. It was really a lot of fun to build. And like I said, they do a good job of trying to keep it from becoming too repetitive, because again, you are dealing with a lot of glass pieces or window pieces that you have to stack and put together. And you kind of do it right to the point where you're getting really tired of it. And then Lego says, okay, but now you're going to do something else. So they do a good job of making it and keeping it interesting the whole time that you build it. On top of that, you get 25 minifigs, some really cool figs. Like I said, Blade, Punisher, Daredevil. I love the Mysterio, I love the Miles Morales. There's a lot of great figures here that come with this set. Firestar, even without the Iceman, still a very cool thing to have. The building itself, I think, looks fantastic. It really does look like something you would see in New York City. Like I said, with the water tower, the sign, the transmitter, everything just looks very much like you would expect a skyscraper to look like. So I think they did a great job on it. I love the little taxi. Otherwise, yeah, that's what I've got. $2.99. Again, Lego sets typically work out to about 10 cents a piece. So at 3,772 pieces, that's something you would expect to pay maybe $350, or sometimes they'd even price it as high as $400. So I think for the price, you get a lot here, and it's got a lot of play value. Again, if you do the modulars, it's also worth having for that. And of course, if you're a Marvel fan, this is almost a must-have for that. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if there's any other sets you'd like us to review. Please check out some of our other videos on the site. Like and subscribe, all of that type of deal. As always, have fun and good hunting.